With Sean Donovan and Mahesh Trivedi. And today's episode, everyone needs space. Just a reminder before we start to click the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you help us grow the channel, and the bell icon to be notified of new releases when they become available. In the last module, we learned about areas of disagreement in relationships. In this module, we'll go in depth into the need for personal space and boundaries. As you move through the lessons, keep in mind that everyone is different. Some people need more personal space than others, just as some people are more revealing about their thoughts and feelings than others. Let's begin by looking at why personal boundaries are needed. Mahesh, can you tell us about the need for personal boundaries in relationships?
Yes, Sean, the need for personal boundaries in relationship is something which we just go through, that how this understanding is important. So no matter how much you love each other, each one of you are different. So in this course, you have been introduced to the differences in how you handle communication, how you handle anger, and how you handle social interaction. So people who need less personal space and desire more connections often feel insecure with their partners who are opposite of them. So if you need less personal space and your partner needs more personal space, you might want to use a mantra such as, my partner's need for personal space is about them, not about me.
Okay. Let's do a little personal space exercise. So the amount of personal space needed by any individual may be different according to the emotional atmosphere at the time as well as the person involved. Here's a simple exercise to discover the amount of personal space that you and your partner require. Firstly, determining your space. Stand about 10 feet apart facing each other. The one going first walks slowly towards the other. The second person puts their hand up when the one walking is close enough. It's that simple. Then the next one does it. Repeat the exercise with each of you having an image of the last time you each felt one of these things. Angry with each other, when you were sad, when you were scared, when you were happy, and when you were amorous. When you've done the exercise for all of those situations, then discuss your results. Use that reflective listening process that we've talked about before to discuss what happened. So while everyone's doing that exercise, Mahesh, talk to us about the whys of personal space differences.
So the whys of personal space differences are mainly because people who need less personal space have a difficult time understanding why others need more personal space. So let's look at some research on this topic. So people with more anxiety and those known as highly sensitive need more personal space. So people needing more personal space have an active parietal frontal network, which is the brain. So consider these facts, like based on the research. Their comfort level with others coming close to them is smaller than most people. This means they need more personal space. Like it takes time. Number two, this sensitivity to stimulations like a sound, sights, emotional energy is high, and sometimes they need to get out of the room and away from people completely. And number three is this is about their needs, their comfort level, and not about their partner.
Very good. Let's go back to something we talked about in a previous session as well, introverts versus extroverts. Introverts typically need more personal space than extroverts. Introverts typically are more sensitive to the brain chemicals dopamine, which brings excitement, and acetylcholine, which brings calm. Mahesh, talk to us a little bit about these brain chemicals.
Yeah, so see how these brain chemicals affects introverts and extroverts completely different. So first one is dopamine. So the more excitement, the more dopamine is produced. So for an introvert, a little dopamine goes a long way. Too much dopamine means introverts grit their teeth and want to run, while the extroverts needs much more dopamine than an introvert to feel the effects of it. So the more excitement, the more dopamine produced, and the more extroverts can feel it. Then second chemical is acetylcholine. So it's like a quiet activities stimulate the productions of the calming chemical. So it is acetylcholine. So the more reading, thinking, and quietness an introvert has, the calmer they are. Basically, introvert loves that personal space, with themselves. While in extrovert barely notices the subtle calming effects of acetylcholine. So they feel the excitement of the dopamine rush and prefer it.
Okay, so let's talk about how we manage a relationship with those differing personal boundary needs. Acknowledging that you each have different needs regarding personal space is the first step in preventing a challenge from escalating. Take time to discuss the need for personal boundaries using those communication skills that we learned earlier in the course. Mahesh, when people are discussing their boundaries, what are some important topics?
There are few important, like topics or things for the discussion. Number one is you may have a different needs in the home. So like if you have space, each of you may need your own cave. Like this would be a space like you decorate just for you. It doesn't have to be a room. It can be a corner of a room. At the same time, develop a signal or sign letting your partner know you need alone time. Like these days, people say me time, me time. That means apart from me, nobody is there in that time. Second thing is important to know that you may have a different needs for space when you are experiencing different emotions. So the exercise which you described, the activity with two people. So at the beginning of this lesson, that gives you an indication of how much space each person needs under different circumstances. Like you described different moods and states of the mind. And um, number three is like a physical space needs are also about touching. So some people want more touching when they are upset, while others want less. So people who reach out to others by touch when the other is upset may feel rejected when their partner does not want to be touched. So it's something important to to make a note. The another thing is that part of being an emotionally supportive partner is knowing when and when not to touch. Realize that their needs for touch probably have nothing to do with you because that is once again a personal space. And use communication skill to address any difficult feelings which may come up. The last thing is about sexual intimacy. That also involves personal boundaries and personal space. So be very clear with each other about your expectations regarding monogamy. And just a note that in the next lesson on sexuality and sensuality, we'll address this more in the depth.
Okay, thanks, Mahesh. I liked your comment about me time versus us time. So just to summarize today's lesson, when you and your partner have differences in your needs for personal space, communication is crucial. We keep going back to communication. You know how personal space issues involve different areas of the brain, as well as different chemicals in the brain. Bear this in mind when challenges arise in this area. So, in the next lesson, we'll examine differing personal needs regarding outside friendships. But as always, before moving on, please go back, rewatch the video, take some notes, see how this applies to you and to your relationship. And as always, remember to click the subscribe button and the bell to be notified when new videos become available. So until next time, thank you for joining us.